Well, we have some sad news. Going to 2026, it looks like Ford is discontinuing the F-150 Lightning. Sad news indeed. This is Joe from Scarff Ford and Isuzu, and today we're going to talk about this 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning Platinum. Let's talk about it. So why did Ford decide to discontinue the Lightning? Well, it's complicated and it hasn't completely been discontinued. I'll explain why shortly. But obviously we saw a lot of there was a lot of EV euphoria about 5 years ago. EVs became really popular, and then everyone was saying, well, we need to come out with EVs, SUVs, trucks, cars, including Ford. And in fact, Ford had one of the first to market full-size all-electric vehicles with the F-150 Lightning. Ford already has the best-selling pickup truck in the United States for about 48 years with the regular F-Series. They are pickup truck experts, so that expertise has transcended into the F-150 Lightning. In many ways, EVs are very simple, a lot simpler than their gas and diesel-powered brethren. You know, gas vehicles have thousands of moving parts. Think about the engine, how many moving parts are in the engine, the exhaust systems, emission control systems, drive shafts. There's a lot of complexity. So in a lot of ways, EVs are a lot simpler. They require far less maintenance. They don't need oil changes, big coolant flushes, major services, spark plugs. They don't have all these drive belts and drive shafts and timing chains, timing belts, fuel injectors. There's a lot of complexity to gas cars. So in a lot of ways, that makes electric vehicles simpler and more reliable and less with lower ownership costs. But an electric vehicle, unlike a gas car, it's like a supercomputer on wheels. Even though this looks like a gas-powered F-Series, on the outside, underneath, we have a battery and electric motors. And you need, software to control the batteries, electric motors, thermal management systems, power distribution, charging. All these things need to be controlled by computer systems. And the battery technology. Battery and electric motors are very simple. Batteries are simple in a lot of ways, but they do still cost a lot of money to produce, especially a big giant battery that goes in this F-Series. And this is the other thing that we're finding about EVs, is that when you have a EV car, like a little Tesla or a Chevy Bolt, they're about half the size of this, so they don't need as big as batteries, they don't require as much energy to charge them and to have them move. So to go 300 miles in a pickup truck, you're gonna need a battery that's about twice as big as like a battery in like a little Tesla or a Chevy Bolt. So that costs more money to produce, and it takes more electricity to charge it. So that's why Ford, for pretty much every EV that they sell, they lose money. So when you're a company that makes things, it's not a very good business model to lose money on every car you make. And sometimes you have economies of scale where the more cars you produce, the more vehicles produce, eventually the costs of manufacturing go down and you can be profitable. But Ford's case and a lot of other companies' cases, they find, especially with these larger, more expensive, EVs, that the more they produce, the more money they lose. So Ford decided to discontinue the production of the Lightning. Unfortunately, they are going to come out with a newer version that's going to have a smaller battery, and it's going to have a small engine that's a range extender. So you'll have a smaller battery, which will be less expensive to produce and sell. So maybe you can drive like 50, 100 miles, not 300 miles like on this one, on the regular battery, and then the gas engine will fire up as a generator to power the vehicle until you can get it charged. So that's Ford's strategy going forward. With the Lightning, I think it'll have a little bit of a different name, but it'll use the same basic platform and technology we find in this one. This has a fully charged range of about 300 miles, which is fantastic, but the thing too about these EVs is that we find is when they're unladen, it's about 300 miles and a good situation. But when you are towing a lot of weight, that range can go down. So obviously, if you're thinking about buying an EV and doing long distance towing, you're gonna probably have to charge it every 100 miles, 150 miles, just keeping it real. For someone who wants a around the town tow vehicle, this works great. This has diesel-like torque, 580 horsepower, 0 to 64 seconds flat. This thing it's worthy of the Lightning name. This thing is a rocket ship. But yeah, keeping it real, if you want to go camping and tow your 25-foot trailer up into the mountains, you're probably not gonna be able to do it without having to make a charging stop where you'd have to disconnect the trailer, connect it to a charger, charge for 30 or 40 minutes. Not quite as easy as just getting in your gas F-Series and filling it up with gas at the gas station. You don't have to disconnect your trailer. So those are kind of, the headwinds that we face with the F-150 Lightning. But aside from that, this thing has an amazing ride. Working at a Ford retailer, I drive all the F-Series, and I can tell you, in my opinion, this has the nicest ride out of any F-Series. It's smooth, there's no gear changes, you have instantaneous thrust, and check this out. Since we don't have an engine in the front, we have a frunk, which is absolutely gigantic. This is like almost as big as like the trunk on a Mustang. A lot of space here, and look at this. You even have a little bit of a recessed area. There's also a drain hole, so if you want to put like ice in here and use it as a cooler, you can do that. We have integrated power outlets, USB, USB-C. You can see the little Easter eggs. That's one of the first Ford vehicles right there, 1913. I wonder what Henry Ford would think about the F-Series Lightning, if he'd like it or not. You know, Henry Ford's wife actually, she had an electric vehicle, believe it or not. Back in the day, electric vehicles were considered luxury goods because on gas cars, you had to crank them up and stuff like that. They're stinky and stuff like that. Electric vehicles were smoother. They couldn't go very far, but they were considered like the luxury, the luxury choice for a lot of people. You have a spray and bed liner. We have the onboard power. We even have a 240 outlet, so you can use this like for camping, on the job site, power tools. You could even potentially charge another EV off of it if you wanted to. So basically, you can use this vehicle as like a generator. I think you could even use it as a generator for your house if you lose power. It's got a pretty big battery. Also have integrated LED lighting, power tailgate, so it powers up and down. We have the integrated tailgate step. This is a range-topping Platinum. It has a beautiful upscale interior. You almost feel like you're in a Lincoln in this thing. It's absolutely opulent, nice, soft, supple leather. Love the contrasting colors and patterns. Rear heated seats. For the 23 model year, the Lightning actually got a $10,000 price increase. There we go again to the cost of the batteries. Just Ford was just losing so much money on these things. I think even selling it at $100,000 or close to $100,000, they were still losing money on these things, but it took some of the edge off by the $10,000 price increase. But guess what? On the pre-owned market, you can find these F-150 Lightnings like this around $50,000. For a lightly used vehicle, almost half the original price. This one has a larger battery. You can get these with a smaller battery. This is a Platinum, so it comes standard with a larger battery, giving you about a 300-mile range. And that's rosy colored. In the real world, depending on the temperature, how you drive, the real world range could be anywhere, from like 200 to 250 miles. Maybe in a perfect scenario, 300 miles. Just like, cars, you have the EPA ratings. A lot of times, they say the car can get 30 miles per gallon in the city. But we all know that it's often quite hard to get your car to achieve the actual EPA ratings that's on the window sticker. So same thing with EVs. Sometimes they're a little bit optimistic. We have this gear selector right here, a little bit different than the regular gas-powered F-Series products. We have this big vertical screen, parking camera, around view camera, heated seats, ventilated front seats, heated steering wheel. This one has a little over 54,000 miles. Steering assist, great sounding B&O audio system, big piano roof to allow lots of natural light inside. It opens. Then you have a power sunshade to dim things down if it gets too bright out, wireless charging pad, integrated trailer bay controller, pro trailer backup assist. Unfortunately, the new Lightnings are going bye-bye, but luckily there's still a great selection of pre-owned examples like this that you can find, and it's a great EV. And sometimes when you get an EV, like if you look at the Cybertruck or even the Rivian, it looks like an EV. If you want an EV but want to just fly a little bit below the radar, these F-150 Lightnings, they look a little bit different than their regular gas-powered brethren, but not quite that different. So it's not like, making it, look at me, I'm driving an EV. You're a little bit more under the radar of the Lightning. And these things are just so smooth, so nice to drive. They are really fantastic vehicles. And unfortunately, it just didn't work for Ford. Hopefully the new configuration with the range extender and smaller battery will do the trick. We'll see. We're Scarff Ford and Isuzu. We've been in business since 1922. Over 100 years, we sell new Fords, new Isuzus, and a very wide variety of pre-owned vehicles. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.